We really like our Metroidvania games here at Get Indie Gaming, and looking at the release schedules, there are plenty of great looking games in this genre coming out this year and beyond. Hi everybody, my name's Stuart, and today on Get Indie Gaming, the top Metroidvania games we're looking forward to in 2020 and perhaps the year after. Let's get all this going at number 15 with Virgil: The Longest Night. It very much wears inspirations front and centre. It looks like a cross between the likes of Salt and Sanctuary, Castlevania and Bloodborne. Headed onto the PC and all the usual consoles this year with a launch timeline that's still to be confirmed, it features a lady called Layla on a quest to save her home from the encroaches of an evil force that's infesting the surrounding countryside. This 2D action platformer on the face of things will offer a precise and technical combat and comes with the aim of challenging players in what's said to be a high degree of difficulty. This one comes also with a strong and compelling overall story that's full of eldritch horror.
Do you remember?
Already out on the Apple Arcade service and coming to Steam as well as the Switch at some point soonish, Inmost is a terrific story-driven puzzle platformer where you're able to play as 3 distinct characters, all within a marvellously dark and interconnected story. One of the most enjoyable features comes from your ability to lure your enemies into spring traps, which feels most pleasing when successfully pulled off. As for the pixel art, well, as you can see, it's a fine looker, with the audio side of things being not too shabby at all. We've played this already via an iPad and look forward to doing the same again while out and about on the Nintendo Switch. Up now, and with a prologue that's out on March 26th, with it being free to play, Unbound: Worlds Apart we suspect will have a full launch over the course of the year. Featuring some stunning looking hand-drawn artwork, it will provide a non-linear story with its core coming from magic portals, which will offer players different mechanics and impact how the character is able to interact within the game's environment. So what does that all mean? Well, it feels similar to the types of things you might have seen in Dark, where the laws of physics are upended, meaning you have to adapt and rethink how you might go about solving the puzzles you come across. Given this has Metroidvania elements, some of these puzzles, well, you won't be able to solve them the first time you come across them, although you may be able to do so later in the game once you've learned the necessary skills. Unbound looks pretty special with its mix of combat and puzzles, and reminds us all of a sharp-looking cartoon dark fantasy story. This one's coming to home PC first, with perhaps other platforms to be announced. Moving on down this rundown, and at number 12, The Guise is a super dark fantasy adventure featuring an ordinary boy having been turned into a monster. While your new form affords you various monster-like abilities, such as running on ceilings to spitting acid, abilities that'll also evolve as you take new skills from defeated bosses, you're also looking to try and hold on to what makes you human. The Guise is expected out in the autumn onto home PCs. Up next, and in Kova, you'll play as a space mercenary within a narrative-driven sci-fi Metroidvania that appears driven by RPG elements. You'll join one of 3 factions, each having their own perks, missions and dialogue options, with you also able to undertake, naturally enough, various quests and side missions to earn credits to upgrade your skills, ship and weapons. The most curious aspect of Kona comes in what the team are calling a combat control system, which takes aspects of first-person shooters and pares it down for 2D, with you able to fully aim and control your projectiles. Kova is expected out at some point onto the PlayStation 4, the PC, the Switch, and the Xbox One. Quite literally swinging its way into the number 10 slot, Biomass with its sword and lightsaber gameplay is, having played a recent demo, one of the hardest games we've played in recent months, with it being utterly, devilishly difficult. We're talking Sekiro and Dark Souls levels of hardness that, in all honesty, well, it's probably above what our sadly aging reflex and coordination skills are more used to. That aside though, Biomass with its pixel art is a stunner and comes with a deep and rich lore, which seems finely created and giving much back to those who fancy taking a look into it. As for the boss battles, each of them has a hidden phase triggered by various requirements and if met, will deliver their own distinct rewards. Biomass is also out towards the end of April, so if you fancy having a crack at this monster of a great looking game, there's not too long to wait before it comes out on home PCs. At number 9, Flynn, Son of Crimson will see you play as Flynn, a young man having been orphaned as a child within a beautifully handcrafted 2D pixelated world that's all threatened by a looming darkness. It comes with an emphasis on player discovery, and with a non-linear exploration system, it also seems to have more than a decent overall combat and boss battle thing going on with it. Flynn, Son of Crimson should be coming to home PCs this year alongside the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Another success from the Kickstarter funding service, Faeland is clearly looking at creating a tribute to the action-adventure games you might have seen back within the 8 and 16-bit days of old, although it's also looking to add current and modern elements to keep it fresh whilst offering something new. The pixel art looks particularly striking, as do the backgrounds and in-game environments, each using a huge colour palette and exquisitely put together character animations. As the player, well, you'll be able to wander this open world and travel from one town to another, all while speaking with NPCs and doing the usual things you do in such games. Combat is customised by way of your choice of weapons, with you naturally enough being able to learn new skills and abilities which you're able to access part of the map previously inaccessible. Faeland should come to Steam this year, with possible future releases on the usual consoles at a point that's to be determined. Coming up next at number 7, and something we've not really seen before, Dark Light is planned to come out in early access later this year, with it being an action platformer within a cyberpunk world full of supernatural beings. We're truly taken with how all of this looks, the graphics particularly, and the characters to the overall environment design, where they're so very vivid in their animations and vibrant in the choice of colours at play. The other aspect of note comes from the enemies you'll face. We believe most, if not all, are invisible to your character's naked eye, and are only visible from the light coming from a drone that accompanies you within the darkness. Expected out on the Switch, PlayStation 4 and via Steam originally this coming summer, over the past few days as this video airs towards the end of March 2020, developer Pixel Art Studio have announced Bushiden with its ninja platforming action elements will now be coming out over the summer of the year after next. Bushiden is looking very much a classy affair with its hand-drawn pixel art, all within its 8 different levels of platforming and scrapping gameplay. The delay is said to enable the team to fully deliver upon the game's expectations, and rather than rush it out before it's ready, they're taking the time they need to get it all done. Moving onwards and into the top 5. Anew, The Distant Light is a single-player side-scrolling action-adventure game, all within an open world that's full of puzzles, surprises and mysteries. Successfully kickstarted in 2017, with it being featured in our monthly Kickstarter showcase back in March of that year, we're really looking forward to see how this one is able to tell what seems to be a pretty unique kind of tale using visual storytelling alone. Anew, A Distant Light is inspired by classics such as Metroid, Limbo and Cave Story, and will likely appeal to such fans, with having around 40 plus hours of gameplay, all within what appears to be an exotic and surreal looking environment. This looks really rather superb. It's coming to PCs first and perhaps at consoles at some point in the future. Announced as coming to the Switch during the Nintendo Indie World event held back in late 2019, Axiom Verge 2 will be out first on the platform sometime this year. By all accounts, Tom Happ, the creator and developer, began working on the sequel as long as 4 years ago, with players discovering the origins of the Axiom Verge universe within this upcoming sequel. Much like the original, we're expecting a heavily pixelated side-scrolling game with heaps of power-ups and upgrades aplenty, with also lots of platforming, action-adventure based challenges, with all new characters, abilities and a fully revamped gameplay system. This drops at some point later in the year, we're thinking around the time for the holidays. One of the hidden gems from the recent Steam Spring Festival of Games, Carrion comes in at number 3. This one's been dubbed a reverse horror game. Rather than playing as the usual hero or person with the responsibility of taking down the usual monster or bosses, in this one you're playing as the monster, with you escaping from a lab, all the while harvesting and munching upon the humans you find as you go about your killing spree. The more you gobble, the bigger you get, which in turn means you're more powerful and able to cause all the more destruction. As you can see, it's incredibly graphic and gory, with it expected out this year on home PC, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox. It's also published by Devolver Digital, so that's another hallmark of quality right there. In the runners-up position, we have Recompile, a game we've unashamedly featured here on Get Indie Gaming a good number of times already. To be honest, it looks better each time we see it, and speaking with people who went to the PAX East event back in Boston in March, it's looking even better than the footage we have on screen at the moment. This apparently comes from what we understand to be an older build of the game. If you're new to Recompile, you're playing as a sentient piece of AI code, with your task being to escape deletion, all within what seems to be one heck of an action shooter platformer. Like others in this countdown, we've had a decent hands-on time with a few demos, and while initially the platforming seems simple enough, the difficulty ramps up fairly quickly, and we think this one will offer players a stiff and all-round solidly hard challenge. We're expecting Recompile to launch this year onto home PCs by way of Steam, and would love to see it out on consoles at some point as well. At number 1, and for many people who watch this channel, given the levels of interest, this will come as no surprise. Hollow Knight Silksong is the sequel to the much-loved and multi-award winning Hollow Knight, with it expected out some point this year, or what seems more likely with it rolling into 2021. This time you play as Hornet, all within a fully revisited game with all new powers, abilities and 150 more beasts, monsters and knights for you and Hornet to do battle against. We've been lucky enough to have hands-on time with Silksong at a couple of events over the past 6 or so months, and from what we've played of it so far, it delivers more on what made Hollow Knight so popular, but also a few noticeable tweaks and changes as to better make use of Hornet's differing abilities. As for the music, well, the composer of the Hollow Knight score is back working on Silksong, so yet again we're expecting something that's already utterly magnificent. So this is expected out when it's good and ready. Hollow Knight Silksong will be out first on PC and the Switch, with perhaps other console launches to follow. That's just about it for this rundown. Hopefully you're all keeping well as best as you can out there, and please let us know which Metroidvanias you're most looking forward to seeing down in the comments. As always, many thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon for more indie game videos.